everybody? It's VG time back again, and this time we're looking at my friend Jason's Vegeta and Babidi deck. Now, after playing with it myself, I've come to appreciate what this deck is trying to do, and I actually like it quite a bit. So what makes this deck kind of hard to build is that it has two seemingly opposing philosophies. You have the leader, which is hyper aggressive, and then you have the cards that are around it that are a little bit more combo / mid-range aggressive, and it's balancing the two that is kind of the trick here. So let's just get into it. Now we'll be laying out this deck as we go along, so that if you just want to see the deck laid out, I will have it laid out here on the mat. You could go to the end of the video, you could check it out there. So starting with the leader, Vegeta and Babdi, he has the new Overlord mechanic where you can put a servant on the bottom of the deck and draw a card. And that's useful because servants, though they are very powerful cards, usually are unable to untap during your charge phase. So you need to be able to do something with them in order for you to be able to take advantage of it, and he's allowed you to do it by putting the card underneath and drawing it. There's an auto that says when he swings, you get to add a life to your hand, draw a card, and give him plus 5k and double strike for the turn. That's a very powerful ability. Having a 15k double striker as well as a self-awakener that also gets to draw cards is what really drew a lot of people to this leader. And then he awakens when you're at 5 or less life, and he's able to untap 2. He's one of the few untapped 2s that we have really going around. On the backside, he is Babidi and Prince Vegeta, Mightiest Imagine. So on this side, he still has the Overlord mechanic. He has to activate main once per turn, where you can add a life to your hand to draw the card and give him plus 5k and double strike. That's a little sad, but it's good. You know, when you could pretty much know when you can go in. And then he has to activate main once per turn, where you can pay green, look at the bottom card of your deck, and if it is a 3 or less Vegeta with Servant, you get to play it from the bottom of your deck. And we do play a couple of cards that fulfill that requirement. So the main engine of the deck is the 4 copies of Imagine Quickening. This is your field extra card, and unlike some of the other decks that are based around a field extra card, you do not just open with this in play. So you have to open it from either drawing into it or by a couple of cards I have here. So this field spell has the ability that when you take a life to your hand or it goes to your drop area, the life that is, you get to put the top card of your deck underneath here. And when as an activate main, if you have 4 more cards underneath here, you could send it to the drop area to play a 3-cost and green Imagine Boom. To help be more copies of the card, we play 4 copies of Babidi Evil Mind Snatcher. And he has 2 different effects, but they both happen as an auto when he comes into play. Either he searches for this and put it directly into play, or he searches the top 7 for a Vegeta with Servant in his card text and add it to your hand. And then borrowing from, I believe it was Ryan Reed's, 1 copy of Hatchiat to act as an additional copy of Babidi, which then acts as an additional copy as that. So you have 9 copies of the field spell technically. And even when you draw him later, the fact that he's able to search for Vegetas is pretty good by itself. Speaking of the Vegetas, we play 3 copies of Mighty Strike Prince of Destruction Vegeta. This is the counterattack. So you negate the attack and then you play him. And he has an auto when you play him, or actually it's part of the counterattack, my bad, where you get to look at the top 7 cards of your deck and add 1 green unison card with a specified cost of 3 among them and add it to your hand, which we do have a target for that as well. And then of course it has Servant. So if you don't know what Servant does, he will be a 25k because he's a Servant, but let's say you attack with him or he gets tapped, he doesn't untap during your charge phase, and then you use the Overlord to put them on the bottom to use it to draw a card and possibly use it again. The other one is the 3-drop Prince of Destruction, Vegeta Life and Death. This card right here is actually quite powerful. So in essence, he's a 3-drop 30k double striker that restands if your opponent activates a counter skill. So that pretty much puts a lot of pressure on them. They have to combo out of him. If they negate, he's just going to restand and go back in anyway, and they lose a card that way. And of course, either one of those guys, after you Overlord with it, on the backside, you can pay green to pull it right back out and keep pressuring. Now, the other engine is based upon this 3-star ball, Parasitic Darkness. This ball right here could be put, well, it's a 5k activate battle, but it could be activate main, put underneath a 3-cost Magic Boo, what you get off of this, to put a 5-costed Magic Boo, the green one, from either your deck or your hand on top of it. And to act as extra copies of that card, because we need to be able to see it, we play 2 copies of the Burrow. So the Burrow has the effect that you could discard them from your hand to remove a counter from a unison, to then search the ball either from the deck or to get it back from the drop area. So if you had to use it earlier for defense, you're still clean. Speaking of the 3-cost Imagine Boos, we played 5 of them. So we have 3 copies of Majin Buu looking for a fight. This guy right here has the effect that when it's played, you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 4 or less and pop it. He has Deflect, so he's good against the blue decks and the yellow decks. This is the one you want to search for those matchups. And you just play them out there. They can't really do anything to him. And then we have 2 copies of Majin Buu Ghastly Energy. He has Barrier, so you play him against the green and the red matchups. Again, to prevent them from being able to interact with him in a meaningful way. And his auto allows you to remove a counter from one of your unisons and remove a counter from your opponent unison. At a 5-drop, we only have one choice, but it's an amazing card. That is this 5-drop Magic Buu Dark Parasite. So this guy right here has Deflect. When you play him, he has an auto that allows you to remove a counter from your unison, to remove a counter from one of your opponent's unisons, make them discard a card, and make them pop one of their battle cards. And just in case you thought it would end it right there, we played 4 copies of Majin Buu Royal Absorption. This guy EX evolves for 1 energy on top of this guy right here. Has double strike and dual attack. He doesn't have any kind of protection, like no deflect or barrier or anything, but I think that's perfectly fine because his auto allows it that when he pops, you get to get back the 3-drop Buu, one of them, as well as the ball. So you can start your plays all over again. Now we're going to get into the unisons. We played 4 copies of Dark Broly. This is the one that's searchable by means of the 2-drop Vegeta, and it also plays into the mechanics of the deck the best because it has a auto that says when a counter is removed from it, your opponent has to discard a card. So when you use the Burrow to search the ball, you remove the counter, they discard a card. If you sack this off to get this Magic Buu and you remove a counter from theirs, they discard a card. When you make this guy right here and he removes a counter and does his whole effect, again, they discard a card. But that effect is auto once per turn, so you can't just keep spamming these remove a counter cards. But what is also great about him is that he's a +2 on the front side and a 20k. So there's almost no way that he's going to leave the table by natural causes. His +2 allows you to pitch a card from your hand to make your opponent pitch a card from their hand, as well as KO one of their battle cards. And then his +/-0 allows you to remove a counter from your opponent unison. And what's great about him as well is that he has double strike, so he's just great against opposing unisons. We also play 2 copies of Vegeta Resolute, Agent of Destruction. This is from the anniversary box. You play him, you pitch a card from your hand, and you KO all of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier. That right there is pretty much good enough to play him. But he also has a +1 to make him a 25k, which is significant since he has double strike and critical. And then he has the -5, where it allows him, assuming all your energy is green, which it should be, even though we do play some non-green cards in here. Your opponent discards 3 cards from their hands, and this is random discard because you get to choose it, so it's actually could be pretty crushing. Now let's get into the super combo choice. This one right here is a hard decision because there's a lot of good super combos that could be ran in the deck. We have access to the new Saiyaman super combo. There's of course Android 18. There's of course Paragus. I chose to go with this bad boy right here, which is the Vegeta super combo. Reason being is that we give our opponent a lot of cards just off the rip from the beginning with our leader. So we want to be able to dial some of that back by stripping a card here or there. He also is a draw super combo. So in theory, I just think he kind of works. He also plays really well with 3 copies of Dark Temptation Toa. I think this card right here is heavily slept on, and not being played in these decks is kind of a crime. So she overwhelms for 3. And when she comes into play, if your leader is green, she gives it +5k and your opponent discards a card. That's again pretty significant because this guy has the ability to give himself 5k and double strike. So you could put him up to a 25k double striker just by overwhelming this and using his effect. Now because we have the additional discards, we could play comfortably 3 copies of Son Goku Power Legend. So at the most, this guy costs 1 energy because you can play this super combo, make him discard a card and play this. You can overwhelm, make him discard a card and play this. You can search a ball by removing a counter, they discard a card, you get to play this, and the list goes on and on. And then lastly, we play 2 copies of Shocking Death Ball. It's good to have an extra card negate. We already have like 3 of these guys as negates, and they're not the greatest negate ever because you got to keep up a decent amount of energy. But this card right here is pretty good. It's not always great. That's why I don't run 4 of it, because we do run a light overwhelm. But you could kind of manage that if you do things right, like overwhelm with this, then sack this to get stuff. And like when you sack this, you automatically have the 5 and the drop to satisfy the sparking. So this is the deck profile as it stands. If you would like, please comment down below any suggestions you have. Jason is always looking for cool ideas. He is trying to keep this deck fairly budget, so you know, Ribrians and stuff like that, as kind-hearted as that might be on your part, it's not really an option. But from playing it, I have not missed any of those cards at all, and I think it's still very strong. So I'll catch you again later. This is VG Time signing out.